you most likely have felt that soreness in your muscles a day or maybe 2 days after training hard in the gym. Well, that's muscle damage. The damage caused by your workouts starts an acute inflammatory response. And after the inflammation runs its course and your muscles are repaired, your body is better able to handle future workouts. In fact, you may notice that you don't even get sore anymore after you've been working out consistently. And what I want to tell you right now is don't worry about it because you're still causing growth-producing muscle damage even though you don't feel as sore. In fact, it's important to mention that excessive soreness is not a good thing at all.
Welcome to the Legendary Life Podcast, where it's all about taking control of your health, losing fat, transforming your body, and living the life you deserve with celebrity fitness trainer and longevity enthusiast, Ted Rice. Today, I'm back with part 2 of everything you need to know about building muscle in your 40s. If you haven't listened to the first episode, please check that out first because if you're one of those people who said, well, Ted, I muscle, I care more about other things. Listen, I'm telling you, building and maintaining your muscle as you get older is one of the most powerful things that you can do for your health and longevity. So make sure you go listen to part 1 before you listen to this part. But I've got a treat for you today. I know we went over a lot of kind of sciencey stuff. Today, we're going to get practical. You're going to learn some things that you'll be able to take into the gym after you listen to this, or even if you listen while you're working out, you'll be able to try some of the practical tips. Let's get into where we left off last time. We talked about sarcopenia and dynapenia and the different types of muscle fibers and why it matters and why strength training is key to maintaining your muscle mass. We also talked about, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, why that's important to you. So many people, they're like, should I use ceramic or iron cutlery to cut my vegetables and fruits with because of the oxidation that occurs when you use an iron knife versus a ceramic knife, right? Guys, that is such small details. Now, I appreciate people's interest in those things, but this is a big deal thing. I know it's not as sexy as like exogenous ketone supplements or nootropics or whatever, but this is the thing that's going to give you what you want. If you're after health, if you're after longevity, if you're after those things, and they don't cost any money. Okay. So try to focus on this stuff because the things that I'm going to tell you right now, they don't cost you anything. You could work out at your house using what I'm going to tell you today and get in better shape and improve your health way more than spending money on a bunch of not worthless supplements, but supplements that really do maybe 3 to 5, maybe 8%. Okay, this is a big game changer. So rant over. Let's get to it. How to build muscle 101. Lift heavy things, eat adequate protein, and recover. Now, today is going to be part 1. We did the intro, but this is truly the part 1, which is lifting heavy things. And so let's talk a little bit about what exactly happens when you do lift heavy things and how that leads to more muscle growth. So according to Brad Schoenfeld's review article, The Mechanisms of Muscular Hypertrophy, there are 3 primary ways that lifting weights stimulates muscle growth in your body. Number 1 is mechanical tension. Number 2 is muscle damage. And number 3 is metabolic stress. Now, don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz at the end of this episode, but I wanted to tell you what these are actually called. And if you're a muscle science nerd like me, these mechanisms probably make sense to you. However, if you're someone who's more verbally oriented and you love to talk and socialize, and perhaps you did great in English or studied law or whatever, and you didn't do a science-related degree, that is probably like Greek to you. And I get that. So I want to break it down a little bit because you may not know it, but you're actually familiar with these 3 things already. So mechanical tension, easily explained. You know that feeling where you're lifting something heavy and it doesn't even have to be at the gym. Maybe it was something in the garage, or maybe you had to pick up both your kids at the same time. and you're like, oh, you let out a little groan and you feel that tension. Well, that's mechanical tension, and it's considered the most important factor to building muscle. The mechanical tension that weights or body weight exercises or picking up your kids put on your muscles causes an electrochemical change that leads to muscle growth. And if you're super nerdy like me, you may want to know what it's called, and it's called mechanotransduction. So that's how your body takes this physical stress and it causes these electrochemical changes that leads to muscle growth. Super weird. Mechanotransduction. So lifting heavy or lifting weights that are challenging, it is important, but I want to tell you there's a point of diminishing returns. That said, in general, the greater the tension you put on your muscles, the more muscle growth you'll have. So the heavier weights you lift, the more muscle you will grow. However, lifting heavy weights in and of itself isn't enough to build big muscles. In fact, there are many changes to your nervous system that can make muscles grow stronger without getting larger at all. And if you remember when I spoke about dynapenia, that conversation about sarcopenia being the age-related loss of muscle over time, well, dynapenia is the age-related loss of strength over time. And what I talked about was that dynapenia, the research around dynapenia, they're finding that there's not as much of a connection between strength and the size of muscles as you might think. That'll be relevant when we start talking about how many sets and reps you do and what you like to do and everything. So just keep that in mind. The next one is muscle damage. And you most likely have felt that soreness in your muscles a day or maybe 2 days after training hard in the gym. Well, that's muscle damage. The damage caused by your workouts starts an acute inflammatory response. And after the inflammation runs its course and your muscles are repaired, your body is better able to handle future workouts. In fact, you may notice that you don't even get sore anymore after you've been working out consistently. And what I want to tell you right now is don't worry about it because you're still causing growth-producing muscle damage even though you don't feel as sore. In fact, it's important to mention that excessive soreness is not a good thing at all. So those people who say, oh man, I worked out and I couldn't walk for 5 days, man, my workout was killer. Or the women who like, oh, I went to the class and my butt has been sore for a week. That's not what you want. I constantly have to tell my clients this because many of them feel that if they're not sore, the workout isn't working. And I think in my experience, women tend to be guilty of this a bit more. And guys, at least the ones that I've trained and worked with, they don't complain about it as much. I think women, they really go after it with exercise. And if they feel very sore, they feel like, oh, you know what? I did this well. But that's not the case. Like I said, in too much inflammation, you're actually breaking down muscle faster than you can build it. And so all that time that you're not working out and you're recovering from your soreness, your body's just putting it back together. Beyond that, too much soreness and inflammation can even be bad for your body. In my interview with Dr. Joel Seedman, we discuss how excessive soreness can make you insulin resistant and cause excessive inflammation. If you want to check that out, that's episode 248, Beat Inflammation and Improve Your Health Through Proper Training with Dr. Joel Seedman. So we've gone over mechanical tension. We've gone over muscle damage. The third one is metabolic stress. And this is just a sciencey sounding term for the familiar sensation that many of us get while we're lifting muscles, that burning sensation. And what many people don't know is that burning sensation, often followed by a big pump in the muscles, can cause our muscles to grow. Some scientists believe the pump we feel during a tough workout is a result of the muscle fibers filling up with water. And this swelling of the muscle fiber is believed to lead to muscle growth. And although you may be getting the picture that there are many complex physiological processes that underlie muscle growth, I don't want to give you the impression that you need to be a scientist to build a great body. The reason why I'm telling you this stuff is that having a basic understanding of the way muscles grow, the principles behind it, will help you design more effective workouts. And even more importantly, will help you spot the charlatans out there peddling ineffective pseudoscientific nonsense. So now we're going to get to the part where we're going to get practical and tactical. I'm going to give you some stuff to use. If you're working out or on your way to the gym right now, I want you to listen to this part coming up, and I want you to apply this. I didn't put this together just so I could talk in your ear and you listen to it on your drive or your run or your warm up or whatever, or even if you're lifting weights and it not be used. This is to use. Okay. So let's talk about how to use all that information that we just talked about, the sciencey stuff. How do we use that in a practical way to achieve superior muscle growth? And I'm glad you asked. So let's get into it. I'm going to give you 6 practical tips for building muscle. Now, number 1 is use proper technique. The majority of folks I've seen working out in the gyms over the years are completely clueless as to why they are there. What I mean is that most of them seem to be showing off for one another, or they're counting reps and seeing how many reps they can do, and they're seeing how many push-ups they can do or how much weight they can lift. What I want to tell you is that is not really why you're there. If you're there to transform your body and if you're there for health reasons, what proper technique really has to do with is our connection to feeling the muscles that we're trying to work. Old school bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger talked a lot about the mind-muscle connection during training. In fact, a quote from Arnold is, "The body is very, very important, but the mind is more important than the body." I want you to take that quote with you into the gym. I want you to put it into action. Too many people that I see, they zone out. It's cool if you want to listen to music, but you're not there to count reps. You're not there to show off to other people. You are there to stimulate the muscles. If transform your body is what you're really after. I don't know. Maybe you are there to show off to other people. I can tell you right now, nobody's impressed. Okay. Nobody cares about how much you grunt or throw down the weights or anything like that. It's really annoying, especially when the guy isn't, usually guys. I don't see a lot of women grunting, but it's very unimpressive, especially when the guy isn't lifting a lot of weight. Now, if there's 500 pounds on the bar, 600, 700 pounds, hey, that's some groaning time, all right? But most of the time, it's just showing off. Don't do that. Don't lift more than you're capable of using good technique with, and focus on that mind-muscle connection. There's even research confirming that we can activate our muscles better if we focus on it. So this is a real thing. It's not even an airy-fairy pseudoscientific thing where it's like, bro, feel the muscles working, bro. This is a real thing. And this goes for women. This goes for guys. For guys, I want you to focus. If you're working your chest muscles, feel your chest. If you're working your lats, feel your lats. If you're working your rhomboids, the muscles that squeeze your shoulders together, feel them working. If you're not feeling them working, there's a problem with your technique or how much weight you're using or something else. Try to fix it. And for women, if you're not feeling your glutes working, that's a problem. If you always feel your quads working, but you never feel your glutes working, that's a problem. Focus on that connection with the muscles that you're trying to work. That's going to help you. So again, if your goal is to stimulate muscle growth, you must learn how to properly activate your muscles during an exercise. This is what good technique means. And if you're not using good technique, what you're doing is you're stressing your joints more than your muscles. So again, don't let your mind wander during your workouts. Instead, focus internally on what you're feeling during every rep of every exercise. Tip number 2, work hard. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? And what I want to tell you is, regardless if you're lifting light weights or heavy weights, you must work until you significantly fatigue your muscles. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that lifting to the point of exhaustion was more important than if the weight was heavy or light. So I want to restate that a bit. It doesn't matter if you're lifting a weight for 20 times or 8 times or whatever. You must lift until you get to that point of exhaustion if you're after building your muscles. So I think it's a lot easier for people who like to lift heavier because the heavy weight, eventually you just burn out. You can't do more and you got to set the weight down. However, if you're on the side that lifts a little bit lighter, perhaps you like to do circuit training. I see a lot of guys do this. They're running from one circuit to the other and they're not exhausting their muscles and their body shows it. Unimpressive. Now, if that's your goal, great. But if you're in the gym and you're working out, why not do it to actually get the benefits, right? So make sure that you work until you hit close to muscular failure. Now, you don't need to go to failure where you can't lift it again, or you got to really use some body English to lift. But do the exercise until muscular, let's say 1 rep away from muscular failure, 1 or 2 reps away from muscular failure. And every once in a while, push it to failure. This will lead to more muscle growth, better results from your routine. Give it a try next time you're in the gym. So forget about counting reps and focus on working to fatigue on every set. That's one of the best tips I can ever give you. Doesn't matter about the weight you're using. Focus on working to fatigue on every set and forget about the reps. They don't mean anything unless you're in a push-up or pull-up competition with your buddies. Number 3 is get stronger. Sounds pretty straightforward too, right? And what I want to tell you is besides performing every set of every exercise to fatigue, another important factor is to use heavier weights as you progress in your weightlifting journey. And you may have heard me talk about this before. It's known as the principle of progressive overload. And there's kind of a cool story from ancient Greece that perfectly illustrates this idea. So in 6th century BC, Milo of Croton would carry a calf on his shoulders every day until it became a fully grown bull. And as the calf grew bigger over time, Milo's body, his muscles, they had to respond by getting bigger and stronger. And what Milo discovered by carrying around a growing calf is still one of the most fundamental elements of building muscle and strength, and that's progressive overload. And if you see the article companion to this episode, I put a nice little photo of Milo when he was young and the calf was young. And as you see the calf grows into a bull, you also see Milo's body change. And it gives, although it's not, it's more of it's just a story, right? But it's a perfect example and illustration, something visual that we can see and say, oh, I get it. And what I'm trying to tell you is that lifting heavier weights over time is important to your results. This is important if you're a woman and you're looking to tone your glutes. Well, with those hip thrusts you're doing, you better add weight over time. I know women trainers, female professionals like Tracy Anderson said women should never lift over 1 or 2 pounds. Well, that's a great way to stay exactly the same because what you're trying to do is you're trying to burn calories when you do that. Except trying to burn a lot of calories in a workout, it's not a terrible thing to do, but it's really short-sighted. What you want to be after, if you want to transform your body, you've got to grow muscle. And if you're a woman, you got to grow it in the right places. It's got to be your butt, your hamstrings are great places to focus on. Your quads, if you don't mind your quads getting a little bit bigger. I've got a female client of mine who freaks out if she gets half an inch on her quad. So we stay away from the quads, but you can build certain areas of your body. And that's what happens when you strength train anyway. So if you're lifting weights and you're not doing it to build muscle, you're defeating the purpose of why you're there because, and this is a shift that I had to make mentally. You've got to build muscle. You can't be focused on burning calories unless you're perfectly happy with the way your body is. And of course, Guys, this goes for you as well. And it's a easier sell for men usually because it's like, well, I add weight on the bar every week, every workout. So great. Just make sure you do it in a way where the other things come first, other things that we talked about, the form, the working until exhaustion. So make sure you focus on those first. Then you start to add weight. Number 4 is work your muscles frequently. And I know what you may be thinking. Well, I hit the gym 5 days a week. I do chest on Mondays. I do back on Tuesdays. I do legs on Wednesdays. I do, abs and shoulders on Thursdays and arms on Fridays. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that we found hitting a certain muscle group, a specific muscle group, more than once a week leads to superior results. In fact, there's a 2016 systematic review. So a systematic review is a study that looks at a bunch of studies and crunches the data to find meaningful answers in the data. And this systematic review found the current body of evidence indicates that frequencies of training twice a week promote superior hypertrophic outcomes to once a week. You got to love the way these guys talk. But what that means is don't do chest on Mondays and don't do chest on Monday and wait until next Monday to hit it again. If chest is something you're focused on, hit it twice a week. Hit it on Monday, then hit it on Thursday. And for women, this is important as well, because I know you're probably not trying to grow your pectoral muscles, but if you're after more toned legs, in fact, I had a client say, wow, I can't believe the results I'm getting on your program. This is someone who bought one of the workouts. And I said, well, part of it is that you're working your muscles just a couple times a week. You're working the same muscles a couple times a week. It's kind of simple stuff. And this doesn't, I want you to buy my workout, but this is something you can do on your own. Hit the muscle groups twice a week and ask yourself right now, how often are you hitting the muscle groups that you want to see a difference in? Train them at least twice a week and you'll see a big improvement. Number 5, this is another important practical one. Take a rest between sets. I've got to tell you, this is one of the hardest sells I have to make with my personal training clients. You know who I train? I train these CEOs, these multimillionaires, these people who are all about time is money, right? And if time is money, which in a way it is for them because they're paying me for a 60-minute session, then it makes sense. You want to get as much as you can in that session, as much work as you can. But here's the thing. It's poor quality work. So if you're a person, you're like, oh, I hate resting in between sets. Well, you better start changing things up because that's a huge reason why you're not seeing the results that you want to see. You could have much better results if you just rested a little bit longer. Because many people believe that resting a minute or less makes the sets harder. And you know what? They're right. But here's the thing. Inadequate recovery does make performing the subsequent sets of an exercise harder. It just doesn't make it effective. So what we're talking about is poor quality work versus high quality work. And there is research to back this up if my anecdotal experience isn't enough for you. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that resting 1 minute in between sets compromised muscle growth. And that same study found that resting 2 to 3 minutes was optimal. It led to better increases in strength and muscle. And I want to tell you a little story. I had a client who I liked him a lot, but again, he had this kind of mentality where, oh man, I'm paying for this 60-minute session. I need to get all that I can out of it, which, is partly my fault, right? I sell these 60-minute sessions. So it makes sense that someone would want to get the most out of it. And by getting the most out of it, they think, okay, well, I'll just do more sets. Here's the thing, especially when you're lifting, the heavier weight you lift, the more you have to rest or your performance plummets. And he didn't believe me. So I said, okay, man, you know what we're going to do? We were doing a bench press, I believe. We know what we're going to do? We're going to do a set of 5 and you're going to knock it out. and we're going to rest 1 minute and we're going to repeat the set and see how you do. So we did that, and his first set was good. His second set, he was struggling like crazy. It felt super hard, of course, because he's not recovered and he's trying to push. And then I said, now we're going to do it my way. We're going to take 3 minutes of rest because now we just fried you with this second set, resting only a minute. And I let him rest 3 minutes, maybe even a little bit more. I can't remember because he was so shot after that second set. But that third set, he got it. He felt it. He didn't believe me at first, but he felt it. And what I want to tell you is, don't take my word for it. Try this out. Try resting 2 to 3 minutes per set, and then try resting a minute per set and see how it feels different. Now, there are times when you want to use less rest, and there's specific methods. But if you're doing straight sets where, I do one set of 8 reps or 12 reps or 20 reps, then I rest. Try to rest at least 90 seconds to 2 minutes. If you're on like the lighter side of exercise, if you're lifting lighter weights for more repetitions, and if you are lifting heavy, if you're lifting like 8 reps and below, you better be resting at least 2 and even up to 3 or even 4 sometimes minutes between sets. Again, don't take my word for it. Do the test. Try it out. And now for the 6th and final practical tip. Be consistent. None of the other things that I said will work unless you do this consistently. Why? Muscles follow the if you don't use it, you lose it principle. While that may not be as scientific as the rest of the tips that I've outlined for you here, it's arguably most important. You can apply every other principle, as I've said, but if you're not consistent getting to the gym, you'll never get the results you're after. So here's where enjoyability comes in. And this is what I've tried to do lately with workouts for all my clients. I try to make them as enjoyable as possible. And that's what I want to tell you. Find a workout that you can be consistent with and stick with it. Because again, if you can't hit this goal here, you're not going to get far. So let's talk a little bit about the best exercises for building muscle. And if you watch the average person working out or the average trainer, you'll see a variety of exercises being used. In fact, you've probably looked over at some people and like, what the hell are they doing? Especially if they're hopping around on a Bosu ball, that half ball thing, and they got light weights and they're standing on one leg. And you're probably like, what does that do? And what I want to tell you is, while most exercises can have a place in your program, it's best to focus on the biggest bang for your buck exercises if the best results are your goals. So what are those? And what I first want to tell you is that tools are just tools, and you can make any tool work. But I generally recommend people stick with barbells, dumbbells, cables, and bodyweight exercises whenever possible. And this doesn't mean machines are bad. In fact, I know guys who all they have in their gym, in their private training studio, is machines, and they get great results just like everyone else does, right? Everyone who's getting great results, they're getting great results too. They use machines. But what I want to tell you is that machines are actually a little trickier to use sometimes in certain cases. However, they're good for certain things like hamstring curls and knee extensions. Those are examples of machines that work pretty well. But most of the time, stick to the barbells, dumbbells, cables, and body weight exercises, because there's some other benefits that come along with those exercises that you don't get by strapping yourself into a machine, nice and stable, and then lining your body up with the machine and just working your muscles. So what are some big bang exercises? And a lot of these you're going to be familiar with, but I think you're going to find a few things that you haven't heard of before. So squats are a big bang exercise, and not just a barbell squat with a squat with a barbell on your back. It could be a barbell squat, could be a goblet squat, could be a split squat, which is just a stationary lunge. It could be a single leg squat, like a skater squat. Another thing is hip hinges. Another big bang for your buck exercise is hip hinges. So what are those? barbell hip thrusts, deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, back extensions. And let's not forget pushes. That's another big bang exercise group. Bench press, overhead press, incline press, dips, push-ups are all examples of push exercises. Then there's pull. So pull-ups, chin-ups, inverted rows, seated rows, dumbbell rows, machine rows, if you want to go that route, are okay too. But again, I recommend the other ones that I just mentioned. And now here's one that you probably haven't done. Now, if you've done some of my workouts, you'll be familiar with these, or if you're more hardcore when it comes to where you get your workout information from. So carries, what does that mean exactly? Well, kind of is exactly what it sounds like. You carry a weight. So you could do a farmer's walk. That's walking with dumbbells in your hands, or it could be the farmer's walk. I don't know what they're called, but they're these like barbells specifically made to pick up and carry for this exercise. You could do a waiter's walk, which is having a weight over your head while you walk. Got to be a little careful with that if you have shoulder injuries or you can't fully extend your spine. You got some bad postural issues. A suitcase carry, which is just like what it sounds. In fact, I use these and clients report to me that, you know what, I was carrying my heavy suitcase or bag, my luggage, and it just felt easier. So that's just picking up a weight on one side of your body and not having it counterbalanced with the other side. So say picking up a dumbbell on one arm, just make sure you do both sides. So bear hug carry is another one. And sled pushes and pulls, which you may or may not have heard or seen, but pushing a car is an example of a carry. And it's an incredible workout. If you ever need a workout and you got a car and you can pop it in neutral and push it, I used to do that with a lot of my clients, the ones that were really into it. And I got to tell you, few things get your heart pumping like that. And of course, you can go to a gym that actually has a nice sled that you can load up with plates. And if you're in a gym like that, you're probably in a pretty badass gym, because only great gyms have that sled. So let's get to the last one, which is core. And I don't love this name core. It's really trunk exercises, but hey, I'll indulge you, right? That's what people call it, core exercise. That's what your non-fitness people call it. So hollow body holds, which is from gymnastics, side planks, hanging leg raises, dumbbell side bends, and dragon flags. And if you haven't seen a dragon flag, I highly recommend you Google that. Or go to my article here and I'll have a little video that you can click on and watch what it is. It's something that if you're into hard abdominal exercises, definitely give it a try. And Bruce Lee made it famous, and Sylvester Stallone in Rocky actually performed some dragon flags as well. So let's briefly talk about how many sets and reps you should do. First of all, this depends on your goal. If strength is really important to you, then you need to lift a bit heavier. So 3 to 5 sets of 4 to 6 reps is a good range to lift in for both strength and muscle building. If you're looking to build more muscle and you don't care about strength as much, but you do want a little bit of it, then 2 to 4 sets of 6 to 10 reps is a good range, or even 6 to 12 reps is a good range. You'll get a bit of strength, but mostly muscle growth there. And the last thing I'll mention, especially for those listeners who are suffering from joint injuries, and every time you try to lift heavier, you get injured, something tweaks your elbow, your shoulder, your knee, your low back, your hip, whatever it is, you don't need to lift heavy at all. Like I mentioned before, research out of McMaster University has found that lifting weights in the 20 to 25 repetition range produce similar muscle growth to the 8 to 12 repetition range, provided that the sets were taken to exhaustion. Okay, so we come back to that practical tip that I mentioned before. And if you want a routine that will take you through all this type of stuff and you want a done for you routine, check out my muscle building course. I got to tell you, it's awesome. especially if you haven't seen results in a while, you've been stuck on a plateau, you will see results in the first week by using the first method that I give you, the first method in the first program. You will see results in a week. However, if you want a sample program, you can go over to my website. I've written out a little sample program for you, and you can get it right off this article. So everything you need to know about building muscle in your 40s, part 2. So let me give you a few tips for workout success, and we'll wrap this up. So number 1, warm up before your workout. Walking into the gym, throwing some plates on the bar and beginning your workout is just not a great idea, especially if you're in your 30s, 40s, you got some wear and tear on your joints. Proper warm-up will increase your blood flow and will lubricate your joints before getting started. This goes a long way to preventing injuries and keeping you healthy for the long run. And your warm-up could be as simple as 5 or 10 minutes of work on a cardio machine, walking or pre-core, the elliptical in other words, or biking, or it can be as advanced as mobility drills that pro athletes use. That's what I use with my clients mostly, is I always give them mobility drills, and those are included in the workout that I've written. Actually, I include them in every workout that I ever write. So again, focus on form. I know we've talked a lot about the exercises, sets, and reps, and I know I talked a lot about technique in the beginning, but I want to talk about it briefly again. Proper technique ensures that you're working the right muscles during each movement. This will go a long way in preventing injuries and helping you get the best results. And something I like to say is stimulate, don't annihilate. I forget which one of my mentors said that to me, but it always stuck in my head. Stimulate, don't annihilate. You're not there. Yes, you got to work to exhaustion, and it may feel like you annihilated your muscle in that set. But what I'm talking about is if you were like me after my jiu-jitsu class where I had to lay down for 5 or 10 minutes, and after the workout was done, just so my heart rate would return to normal and I could breathe and move again, that's too much. And that's one of the reasons I stopped going to the classes. They were just killing me. That's annihilation. Also, if you can't comb your hair or walk right a few days later because you destroy your muscles, that's annihilation too. Make sure you challenge yourself, but don't destroy yourself. And another tip, and the last tip I've got for you, is track your progress. One of the most effective things that you can ensure that your workouts are actually working is to keep a training journal. Personally, I use an old iPad to keep all the workouts on that I do at home. And I used to use that for my clients as well, my personal training clients. Now, I've got all this fancy stuff, all these apps and everything for my online coaching clients. So it's a bit different now. But the point is, whatever you do, even if it's just writing it down in an old school pen and paper journal, do it. Management guru Peter Drucker always said, what gets measured gets improved. And this definitely is true when it comes to tracking your workouts. So that is it for episode 2 of the masterclass, everything you need to know about building muscle in your 40s. I hope you learned something. And more importantly, I hope you put some of what you learned into action. And if you'd like to see the actual article so you can peruse it and spend more time reading about the different things you can do, or to check out the program that I've written there, go to legendarylifepodcast.com. It'll be right there. That's all I've got. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you on Monday.
Hey there, Ted Rice here again. And I want to know something. If I invited you to work with me to uncover your personalized blueprint to get your health and fitness under control once and for all, and just to be clear, I'm talking about long-term consistent results that are easier than any program you've ever done before, no struggles or stress or restrictive diets or even extreme workouts. Would you take me up on that offer? This is the same guidance I've used to help busy CEOs, other executives, and even celebrities, including Richard Branson and Robert Downey Jr., to stay in great shape while still having a life. To learn more, what I want you to do is go to legendarylifepodcast.com/apply and schedule a call with me today. And just a PS, this offer has limited spots available. We're talking about 12 committed people max. So if you want to know more, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/apply and schedule a call with me today. Hope you're having a great one and talk to you soon.